All right, so this is what's happening today, just so that there's no confusion when you look at the video, if somebody's not here. There's a lot of dead space right here. Sorry about that. I start videoing as soon as it comes on before I have any students in the class. But anyway, once again, here's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about the research paper assignment, possible topics, and some online resources for students to use. I'll try to be much more entertaining. Maybe I can sing and dance. Okay, probably not though. All right. So what you're watching me do right now is I'm opening up all the documents I'm going to show when I have students finally in the class. Maybe I'm going to do that. Why aren't you downloading? There we go. Open with Word. All right. Computers. Okie dokie. Okay. In the cement bed. Okay. Let's see if the schools are coming. There's Crosbyton. Good morning. Mr. Pettit. All right. Save that. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Oh, good morning, everybody. How's it going? We doing okay? I'm sitting here doing a couple of documents really quick. I have a sample research paper for the Hamlet research paper, and I wanted to update it, make sure it was current. So I was fixing something in it very quickly. So now that's been updated. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the research paper assignment. We're going to go through a list of possible topics. I have a sample paper for you to look at that we really need to, it's pretty good except for the works cited because it was done under the previous MLA 7s instead of 8. And so the works cited part will not be quite correct, but how you quote and all those things are in there. So it's a decent sample. Let's see. Oh, submit. Okay. Got to figure out what I'm doing. All right. Slowly opening up documents. And you should be getting copies of these also. I try to get ahead of the game and make sure that we have as much as possible in our hands before we do this. Next week, one day next week, I can't remember if I think it's going to be Wednesday, one of the librarians is going to come in and show us how to use the online databases specifically for English. And hopefully that will help out. Okay. Let's see here. All right, so let's talk about this research paper assignment. One of the things I'm noticing is that I write up assignments and you guys don't pay a whole lot of attention to them, so you do stuff wrong on the assignments. You really need to make sure that you go back and look at that. It's just common sense. If you have an assignment that you're working on, you need to make sure you have the assignment there so that you meet the parameters of it. Because every single assignment this semester stuff has come in incorrectly. So all I can suggest is that make sure you go back and you read it and you read it and read it and ask somebody if you think you might be doing something wrong. So let me get this over to enable editing so it's a little bit easier to read. All right, here we go. The Hamlet research paper assignment for 1302. It's going to be due. We've got basically a month to get this done. All right. The subject of your research paper is going to be William Shakespeare's Hamlet. But you must decide on your thesis. I'm not going to tell you what you're going to write about. You get to choose that. You might write about a character or characters. In other words, you could write a compare and contrast essay using either the block or the alternating method that we did last semester. You could do that in your paper. You can select two characters and talk about how they're alike and how they're different and how that kind of helps make the play a better play. You could talk about theme or themes. And this is the one thing consistently that I keep seeing done incorrectly is you keep giving me topics and calling them themes. A theme is a complete sentence. It's that lesson of that universal lesson about life that you learn from the text. It's not going to be love or revenge. It has to be a complete sentence. You can also discuss how Shakespeare uses symbols in Hamlet, though really the main symbol is going to be the skull or death. Or any other topic that you think will help readers understand the play better. The choice is going to be yours, but you need to make sure that you focus enough on your topic so that you can go into depth into your interpretation, but not so much that you run out of things to discuss. All right, let me scroll here a little bit. You should assume that your audience has already read Hamlet. You don't need to tell me what the play is about. I know what it's about. The minimum length of the paper will be 500 words, so we're looking at about 2.5 pages or so. And that's not counting a works cited, and it must contain quotes from at least 2 sources and the play. That means you're going to have to do the research on the SPC databases you're going to have to use. Don't come back and say, I can't find anything, I need to go to Google. Look through the SPC resources. There's a lot of stuff on Hamlet in these English-specific databases, okay? It's got to be done according to MLA standards, which you have, and which the sample document follows for everything except the works cited. And if you remember, I already did a works cited for the textbook, which should be what you put down for the source for the play. Don't tell me you got it offline. That's one of those things that's been showing up is that on the poems, you've been giving me the page numbers from our textbook, but you're giving me an internet address, which is nowhere close to any kind of a right kind of citation. So you're just going to use the citation that I gave you back in short story to do the textbook for, but all you're going to do is put Shakespeare, William, Hamlet, the tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, italicized because it's a long work, and then you have the inclusive pages for Hamlet, which is 1112 through about 1190 or so. If you have to go outside of the SPC databases, you do need to ask me about the source. If it's just some Yahoo on the internet, I can't necessarily say I'll let you use it, okay? So next up, we're going to talk about some possible topics, which are going to look a lot like some of those themes and things we saw in that PowerPoint presentation about Hamlet. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. Okay, research paper topics. How and why does Shakespeare use humor in Hamlet? When you're talking about a tragedy, when everything seems to be these horrible incidents, sometimes you need humor to provide some relief. If people are getting killed, going crazy, doing horrible things, you need something to change the mood. If you're constantly hitting your audience or your readers with negative things, they'll become tired and they'll stop they won't want to continue reading or watching. Michael Crichton, you guys know Jurassic Park? You know, all the Jurassic Park movies? Michael Crichton was a firm believer in that you would have something very exciting if you've watched any of the Jurassic Park movies. There's lots of all this, all of a sudden, big bad things are happening, and then there'll be something very calm, because if you keep the the person, the viewer, constantly in a tense state, eventually it becomes exhausting, and you don't want to watch it. So he is a personal believer in that. He actually wrote about that. If you were to read Jurassic Park, there are these interesting, exciting stuff, a little bit of boring stuff where he gives you some of the technical background. Not a whole lot of humor in Jurassic Park, though. Shakespeare, though, does like to give a little bit of humor. You can compare and contrast any of the following characters. You could look at Hamlet and Laertes, Gertrude and Ophelia, which means you're focusing on the women in the play. You could look at Claudius and Polonius. You could do, any two characters. Of course, they have to be characters that have enough written about them so that you can talk. Laertes is not a bad one to select because he only shows up in the first act and, late in the fourth and the fifth act. That's all you get him, so you're not having to, you have to deal with less of the play. Whereas Ophelia is done by the fifth act, Polonius is gone by the third act. So, those are important things to know. You can look at Hamlet's indecision as evident throughout the play. Talk about how his indecision basically leads to the tragedy. Every time he doesn't make a decision, that's a possible, you pull out those incidents. So you would begin, Hamlet's indecision is the ultimate tragedy of the play. So you talk about the first time he's indecisive, which would be when he doesn't do anything. He gets told his father has been killed, but what does he do? He does nothing. Act 2 basically is nothing until the players get there. So then you trace those indecisive moments, or you can just pick out probably 3 of them. You don't have to do every time he doesn't make a decision, because that would make the paper too long. But you just do, 3 that are significant, and then that's how you show that his indecisiveness leads to this. Causes him to be, when he does behave, he behaves rationally. Okay. You could examine his attitude toward women. This is very interesting. So you would look at the characters. This is number 4. You would look at the characters specifically of Gertrude and Ophelia and how he interacts with them and how he treats them. So that's not just looking at the 2. You focus solely on Hamlet's interactions with those women in the play, which is different than if you just compare and contrast Gertrude and Ophelia. You could look at dramatic irony and give examples from the play. Dramatic irony is when the audience knows information that most of the characters are not aware of. And so it creates a little bit of tension in us because we always know, what's going to happen to that first person in a scary movie, they die. That is dramatic irony. So that's one of those things to look at. You could trace all the coincidences that occur throughout the play, what appears to be random chance things happening. Like pirates show up in the middle of the play. It's kind of like, that's a coincidence. You could decide what is the dominant theme of Hamlet, but you have to have a complete sentence for that theme. But you would have to show how that shows up throughout the play, how we first get our taste of it and how it kind of works its way through the acts. And then 8 just basically says you examine, why does it take Hamlet so long to kill Claudius? He could have killed him by Act 3, but he doesn't. Here's an interesting one. Did Gertrude know that Claudius murdered her husband? There is some belief that there's evidence in the play that shows she knows about her husband being killed. And then you could look solely at the characters of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in the play, which means you only deal with Act 2 through Act 4. What function do they serve? Then you could also look at the 2 characters who serve as foils for Hamlet. That would be Laertes and Fortinbras. If you just look at them, Laertes is in Act 1, into Act 4, Act 5, and Fortinbras kind of shows up in little bitty he shows up occasionally where we just have a glimpse of what his actions are outside of the play. He never actually speaks in our play, but his actions show up in letters. Hamlet in end of Act 3, beginning of Act 4, comes across some of Fortinbras's men. And they're doing something. So there's these odd little times that Fortinbras shows up. But that would be an interesting one to write about. Describe the 2, that's it. Shakespeare's plays are quite spicy at times. Examine some of the sexual innuendos or references in Hamlet. There are a few. They basically revolve around Gertrude and Ophelia, because those are the women. What is the message of Hamlet? Not quite the same thing as the theme. What is it telling us? In what ways does this message speak to today's world? What similar problems and issues arise today. Just like in Hamlet's time, we have issues where parents die and parents remarry and children have trouble accepting the remarriage. That's a very contemporary issue. Most of the time it's not parents being killed by, but there's that issue of how do you deal with a step-parent, a stepchild, how do you account for somebody who loves you and rejects you, so you could talk about that issue with Hamlet and Ophelia. So there's possibilities. And that's actually, the next one is, was Hamlet in love with Ophelia? Was he responsible for her death? That way you're solely focusing on the interactions between Hamlet and Ophelia, where they speak, and what do those words reveal. She also has a time where she's singing some songs that are pretty pertinent to her relationship with Hamlet, and so then you can decide, was he responsible for her death? Number 12 says, what is the role of deception in the play, and why do you think Shakespeare incorporated it so much into this play? There is, if you've watched a lot of the movies about Elizabeth, or even if you've watched The Tudors, which was the BBC broadcast, or read any histories, the Elizabethan time when she is ruling was full of intrigue and spying. Everybody wanted to get power. They assumed because there's a woman on the throne, they could manipulate her. They could influence her to do what they wanted her to do, and she and herself was a master at this. So there's this whole notion. Shakespeare is reflecting political intrigue that goes on in the court of his day into the play. So that might be a possibility for a topic, all right? So that would be it on those samples. I want to show you the sample research paper I have. This was written in the last couple of years, so it's fairly current, except for it's done, the works cited shows the setup for MLA 7th. That is not correct. You need to do MLA, and there is, I think I have a due date for when you've got to have a draft of your works cited in so that we can look at it and make sure it's going correctly. Because if those come in correctly, my grading gets sped up quite a bit. So here's the paper, kind of in the middle of it because I was making a couple of changes. So here is correct MLA formatting. There's no header. Because you're turning it in virtually, you don't have to put all these things on it because it's a document all attached to each other. So your name, my name, the course English 1302, whatever your section is, which is going to be 441, and then the date. Obviously, 8 July 2054 is not a realistic date. Here's the title. Notice that the title has nothing done to it. It's the exact same size as everything else on the page. I'll just let you go see. And note, come on, scooch out. Notice how there's no extra spaces. Everything's very nice and straight. It's not centered. The only thing centered is the title. Everything else is flush left. I'm going to let you kind of see how it looks on the page, okay? This is what I expect your papers to look like. So you can see this one goes on to the 3rd page. And then the 4th page is the works cited. It is a separate page. Just so happens the student forgot to provide the textbook for the play. They gave me their 2 sources, which they got off of SPC. So you actually have a couple of sources that you could go and looking for if you needed to. So I'm going to go back to the top and just point out a couple of things. All right. Please notice in Shakespeare's Hamlet, anytime you refer to the play, you italicize it. That needs to be bigger, doesn't it? Okay. You do not have a copy of this, by the way. This is not something I sent. This is in the Blackboard, in the research paper folder, in the drama menu button, okay? Shakespeare's Hamlet. Okay, so we know that the author of this is writing about the play. When you're talking about the character, you do not italicize it. When you talk about the play, you have to italicize Hamlet. And it is okay to shorten that title to Hamlet and not say Hamlet, the tragedy of the Prince of Denmark, whatever it is. You don't have to give me the full title. You can just say Hamlet. So you'll notice that the author of the paper made a point of saying there exists an intricate mesh of power struggle as the main character Hamlet is pitted against a myriad of overwhelming odds throughout his journey. By the way, this is a dual credit student. This is actually a junior in high school, just to give you a heads up, okay? The characters of Hamlet, so now we're back saying the play, are seen multiple times challenging the balance of power in particular situations. Shakespeare weaves this intricate mesh of power by reminding the reader through calamity that power comes at a heavy cost. So there's our thesis right there. So we're going to look at all the calamities in the play and how that comes at a heavy cost. And it's a tragedy, so it should be obvious everybody's going to die. That's what happens, okay? So we begin with this topic sentence. Throughout the play, King Claudius uses whatever means to keep his power. So here we go back to the word power in the thesis. And so we're going to talk about the calamity of him using his power. He goes out of his way to make sure his tracks are covered at every step, further complicating the power struggle between him and Hamlet. Hamlet, on suspicion of his father's murder by King Claudius, keeps the king in check. So here we have a quote from an outside source. Hamlet fails to do the obvious on account of his determination to ensure King's damnation. The author is Javid, and it's page 330 in the source. So it's verifying what the author of the paper said. It is interesting, however, that in this particular power struggle that they both know of the opposition's intention and are suspicious of the other, but for the sake of Denmark will not reveal any details relating to the matter because it would seem absurd to the people. This but is not a but used as a coordinating conjunction because what comes after it's not a complete sentence. That's why the comma after the but and after Denmark are correct. Then it's about another power struggle. Hamlet's relationship with his mother is more a power struggle than anything else. His anger towards her, I'll let you go on and read it yourselves, but just so what you can see what's going on. Here we have a quote from the play. That was the thing I was fixing, that there was a slight error in the quotes. So I was making sure that the parenthetical reference was correct. I'm going to blow it up really big so you can see it. So it tells me it comes from Act 3, Scene 4. My bad. Go back down. And lines 93 through 96. So I can flip to my book, even though it's not a page number, and all I have to do is go to Act 3, Scene 4, and those lines, and I will see those exact quotes. Please notice that with the quote, it begins here at nay, but to live. See the slash? When you're quoting this play, like poetry, when you quote poetry, you put a slash at the end of the line. And notice how there's a space on each side so that it's not all smushed together. And so as long as that quotes go, every time that the line changes, actually I'm going to go find this in our textbook very quickly. There will be the slash. And this also is covered in that How to Write a Literary Analysis sample. Act 3, Scene 4. Hold on, I'm getting there. 93 through 96. So let me flip over to the document camera and show you what come on, document camera. So I'm looking up here at the top of the page on this, and I can see it says Act 3, Scene 4. So I start looking at the lines over here. So I can see line 5, line 10. There's 3.4 in our textbook. That tells me to act in the scene. So I'm looking for 93 through 96. So I can see it right here. Nay, but to live. So when you see nay, but to live, if I go back and look at this sample, see the slash after live, and then in the rank sweat of an unseamed bed, there should be a period, and then, did I put a comma? Oh, it is a comma. I can't read. There's the slash. Stewed, there's an error here. This should be a capital S because of the line, so that should be a capital S. I'm going to go correct that. Okay, stewed, aha. And now I know what happened here then. This person's probably quoting from a different version. Stewed in corruption, honeying and making love. See the slash over the nasty sty. All right, so that's what's going on there. So when you see those slashes, it's marking the ends of a line of the play. You have to quote from the play. That's how you prove that whatever you're saying exists in the play. If you can't just paraphrase. I want to know that you know how to quote. The other thing to realize there is that it is at the end of the quote is where parenthetical reference goes. At the end of the sentence, excuse me. See, this one is integrated. Okay, I'm going to shrink this back down for a second. All right. You can see, because right here, saying, nay, but to live in the rank sweat of an unseamed bed. This is not dialogue. That's why there's not a quote after saying. If you're writing a story and you have people speak, it's okay. But in a quote, where you're quoting from something in an analysis, you don't put a comma after the words like said. All right? So it's at the end of the sentence, not the end of the quote. It just so happens those are the same place here. There's another quote down here. This is because much of Hamlet's, this is one from the other source. Much of Hamlet's misanthropic revulsion seems to be emblematized by womankind in general and by Gertrude in particular. So this comes from the source. Lewis, do you see 637 and through 638? That tells me this was the author's last name, and that's the page numbers in the source. If your source has page numbers, sometimes sources that we get offline may not have page numbers. But a lot of documents, if when you go and do your research and you open up the document and you have a PDF of it, you will have the actual copy of the page from the original publication that has page numbers on it. Give me those page numbers. If you have something that's just all internet, it was never published in hard copy, you will not have a number to give me. And don't give me paragraph numbers. Don't say P in front of those numbers. You don't have to say act, 3, scene. You don't have to do that. When you do the capital Roman numerals, the lowercase Roman numerals, and the line numbers, I know exactly what that is because it is part of the standard of MLA. All right? So we can see that it also ends, here's another quote at the end, and this one has been integrated. You see, of this King Claudius replies to Laertes when asked why he hasn't killed Hamlet, comma, the queen his mother lives almost by his looks, and for myself my virtue or my plague, be it either which she's so conjunctive to my life and soul. So see how that's part of the entire sentence, okay? And then here's another, the last example of the imbalance of power or the questing for power is here in the Ophelia-Hamlet relationship. So this paper might be handy for you to know, okay? Here is, I will show you this one because I do like what this individual did. Ophelia's madness is a brew of love and hate caused by Hamlet. For when she sings about tomorrow being St. Valentine's Day, see how the quote's in the middle of a sentence? There should be a comma right here. I think I actually took out all of the marks of punctuation that I corrected. She is referring to a romance she has been denied. Yeah, she has been denied by Hamlet. So see how the quote's up here, but parenthetical reference is always at the end of the sentence. Y'all got that? So my suggestion is print out the sample research paper because the quoting is done correctly. How to write a literary analysis is really long and you might get tired of looking at it, whereas if you print out don't even worry about printing out the works cited, print out just the 2 and the partial pages of the essay and have that to look at when you're writing. If you have that there, you can say, how did this person quote? Oh, that makes sense. I'll do it just like this individual did it, and then you won't get it wrong, okay? I just don't want you to lose points because you're too lazy. Don't think about it. If I give you samples, just like in math, you use the math samples to help you do correct math problems, right? Doesn't that make sense? If I'm giving you samples that are done correctly, you should have them with you when you're writing the essay. All right? All right. So,
Ms. Thompson, I have a question. Sorry.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's Caitlin from Smire. I just wanted to make sure on the syllabus it says that you said we were going to have a draft of our works cited due, and on the syllabus it says a draft of our research paper as well. Is that correct? Do you want it all together?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I haven't done this in the past because I hate to make us have to do that peer revision, but I feel like it's going to help you if you have to look at, you're only going to exchange among yourselves. We're not going to try to turn this in. And what I would do is have you turn in a draft to me. I'm going to glance. I'm going to look at that, your thesis statement. I'll try to kind of glance through your quotes to tell if you're doing them right or wrong. I won't correct anything. I'll say, hey, your thesis statement needs this. You need to fix your quotes. That's all I will do. But if you're looking at each other's papers, maybe that will help. And so you guys know who the smart people are in the class because there's more than one, obviously. So I just think if we do that draft, since it's going to be due on the 30th, that gives you 3 or 4 days to let's get it done. And instead of you waiting until the last minute to write the paper, right? Yeah. By doing this, hopefully we won't have this, we don't get it done, and so it comes in late. So I'm just trying to ensure that we are successful, okay? I really don't want to have to be the mean old lady that says, once again, you've done it wrong, you didn't turn it in, you didn't get all the stuff done, the works cited, what did you do? I don't want to do that. I want to try to prevent that happening because of those reasons. All right, let's see.
Miss Thompson,
Uh-huh.
this is Lorenzo. Are we still we follow the syllabus with the due date for the draft being
Yes.
April 26th?
Mm-hmm. There's not anything planned for that day, is there? That's like a Monday.
No, we were just making sure.
Yeah, that's Monday because I know regional competition is the previous weekend. I also know that I'm interfering with regional track. Yeah, it's probably regional track by then coming up that week. I don't have any time. I have to have time to grade the papers. I can't wait till, the 3rd or 4th of May because we're done. And here, the 12th is graduation at SPC. I've got to have everything done, by the 12th. So I've got to have a few days to get your papers graded. But at least I don't have almost 100 people writing this paper. That's the good news. So let's try something a little more interesting. One of the things I have done, making sure I haven't forgotten anything that I wanted to do today. I have found a lot of help in YouTube for Hamlet because that's how my mind works. Before I get to that though, I'm going to flip you. I'm going to show you. Here's Blackboard. Current MLA citations for SPC databases. I think this is current as of 8. Let me open it up and look. I will double check it though. Yes, this is what you're seeing here. When you look at current online sources, this is current as of MLA 8. And I'm guessing I probably swiped this from, and I've even got a note down here. When using AN, South Plains College Database, students may omit the DOI and the URL. Because to be able to access that database, you have to pay for it. Because you go to South Plains, that's why you get it. Okay, so I'm saying you can skip this right here. You don't have to give that on these. So that would shorten your citations. And that's not technically MLA, but what I have in here for you guys in, well, let me get back to it. Where is it? The current MLA citations for SPC databases and a works cited sample. These should be accurate because I believe I did them last semester, so they should be up to date. Let me check. That sure doesn't look it. No, those aren't, so I'll have to, don't worry about that page. I will fix that one. That one's not right. But the one before it, I'm gonna go delete that. Works cited sample. And I will do a correct one for you, all right? It's gone. You don't have it to worry about it. One of the things I have done is I've gone in and on Friday I was trying to think, what can I do to try to get you in the mood for Hamlet? And so for some reason, YouTube's got some awesome stuff in it. It's got some bad stuff in it, but it's got some good stuff in it. So I actually have a whole folder that is Hamlet video links. And some of these are there are two things that are crash course. There's a Hamlet summary video. There's Laurence Olivier, considered one of the great classical actors in British theater and American movies. His To Be or Not to Be video. Hamlet by One Direction. Okay, I found these. Hamlet by One Direction, Hip Hop Hamlet, and Hamlet the animated version. All right. I couldn't help myself. It was, but I want to show these were projects that kids did for AP classes, most likely. So the good news is we could be doing something like this.
Get it right. Got it. Get YouTube. That's this. I'm bored now. Me too. I'm bored. You guys want to go to the beach, man? Why not? Yeah. Dude, we should do Hamlet too. I love Hamlet. You're insecure. We know what for. We spy on you after you close the door. You're concerned and Rosencrantz. You thought that you could trust us, but you can't. Everyone else ignores you, see it. Everyone else but you. Hamlet, you whine You don't know that you're psycho. Wish you would just let it go. You're going mad. You're such a prick. You speak in prose and no longer in iambic. You won't step up to the plate. Instead you sit back and procrastinate. Everyone else in your competing, everyone else but you. And then you whine and complain like nobody else. The suicidal brain gives you overwhelmed. The way that you treat your loving heart is hell. You don't know, you don't know that you're psycho. In your lane so desperately, you seek revenge for your sad and purgatory. You hire actors to prove a conspiracy. You don't know, you don't know that you're psycho. Wish you would just let it go. What just happened? What were we wearing? Did we just make a music video? I kinda like it.
Thought it was really cute, and it kind of gets all the, points across. What can we say? And they look like y'all. You know what I'm saying? They're just little high school kids. This is Hip Hop Hamlet. Kind of interesting also. Hopefully we don't have to listen to video ads. Come here.
Not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep no more. And by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. Die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death where dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes the calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy take, when he himself by his quietest mate with the bare bodkin. Who would fathers dare to grunt and sweat under a weary light, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have, than fly to others that we know not of? Thus, conscious does make cowards of us all. And thus, the native hue or resolution is sickly all with the pale cast of thought, an enterprise of great picture moment. With disregard, the currents turn awry and lose the name of action. deserve to suffer the bad things thrown your way, or fight against your troubles by simply putting an end to them all. Fix it up before taking a fall. Dying, sleeping, that's all dying is. A sleep that ends the heartache that life gives. Alive for that reason, I strive for achievement. To die for sleep, to sleep just for dreaming. But there's a catch, in death sleep, who knows what dreams might be attached. And if they get attached, it's a reminder on how reality can find us after we put this morality behind us. That's something to worry about. Those thoughts that make us stretch our sufferings out to the point of thinking death is coming around. Stressing on something I know nothing about. Who will put up with all of life's embarrassment? The abuse from superiors and management. The disrespect from men with arrogance. The pangs of a love unanswered. The incompetence of the law. The lack of courtesy of people in the office. And the gall good people take from all. Would you take your knife out and call it quits? Who would choose to let loose and sweat through a life worn down? Unless something dreadful after death made the thoughts of fear emerge. The unexplored town where no visitor returns. I wonder, without getting answers, it puzzles the will. Rather stick to the evils I have than try the ones that I know not of. The fear of death that makes us all cowards. Think about it too much till it attacks your mind. Till it becomes weak, it's natural. And actions of importance and substance fade and lose the name of action. Hamlet.
All right. Whoa. Didn't want to start it again. Sorry about that. Just very interesting. I like the fact that he does it for you. It goes to show Shakespeare can be rap. And then he actually translates it into contemporary English, which is pretty cool and tells you what it means. And now, just to give you a heads up, this is how it appears when Olivier does it. No, that's not Olivier. Sorry. Sorry. Come on, go away. Sorry, I guess it's having to load. The difference between 2015 and 1948. Well, let me exit full screen and see if I can get it to play.
nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of joy, and by opposing sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity a stolen life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's conscience, the pangs of despised love, the law's delays, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy take, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare body. Who would furrows bear, to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have, than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience doth make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sickly o'er with the pale cast of thought. And enterprises of great depth and moment, with this regard their currents turn awry, and lose the name of action.
Very melancholy, very sobering. Which reminded me of another possible paper. You could compare a movie version to the play. And so that would have, you would start then looking at why do they do what they do? Why do they leave out scenes? Why do they change things? So that's a possibility. I would recommend that you probably not try to do Branoff's version because that's a 4-hour movie. But remember, the final exam is going to be Hamlet. So if you need to review for Hamlet, I would recommend that you watch the Branoff version, which you can watch it in entirety on YouTube. But the setting's a little off. They put it in about, I want to say, 18th century Denmark instead of the 1100s. Now, this is a reminder what's coming up. Next time, the very first thing we will do on Wednesdays, we will have a quiz over Act 1. You need to read it. Okay? You need to read it. I don't care if you're reading it out of our textbook, if you're reading some version that your teachers have. I don't care if you've gotten No Fear Shakespeare and read it in contemporary English, because that's easier to understand. I'm not going to deny it. I would recommend it, particularly if you have trouble. That I don't have any problems if you can do that. And you might actually even be able to find translated versions of Hamlet. I'm just going to sit here and Google it very quickly. But there will be a quiz that will take place in about the first 5 or 6 minutes, because we're not going to spend all day on it, because then we're actually going to watch Act 1, talk about it. You'll notice that you have questions to guide your reading. Those questions will help with the final exam. Hopefully they copied those for you. There's also the notes and quotes pages that I have done over this textbook so that everything should match up with your textbook, to help you out with understanding what's going to be on, because that final exam is going to have so many multiple choice, and then it's going to have some short answers where you have to tell me who said the quote and what it means. And I actually explain almost all of those on that notes and quotes pages. Let's see. Why am I not getting Google over here? Okay. I'm going to see if there's I'm going to see if there's No Fear Shakespeare. Oh, wow. Hold on a second here. That's in Spark Notes. I don't know how much you can get that way. Let's see. But I'm not crazy about reading on the internet sometimes. Though I have a Kindle, I have an iPad, I've got Kindle on my phone. But it looks like No Fear Shakespeare is in Spark Notes. Hamlet, no fear, puts Shakespeare's language side by side, table of contents. Maybe this will scroll, maybe not. See what's going on here. I got a swirly ball. I don't know if that's good or bad. All right, so if I click on Act 1, Scene 1, if it's going to take me to it. I see all these links, but I don't know if they're working. Okay, slowly going there. I need to be patient and give it time to get there. So you can actually read it online, it looks like, and not have to pay the money for it. All right. Yeah, here we go. Here's the original Shakespearean text on the left, the translated text on the right. Who's there? Who's there? That's pretty easy. Nay, answer me. Stand and unfold yourselves. No, who are you? Stop and identify yourselves. Long live the king. That's easy. Bernardo? Is that Bernardo? Okay. That's why one reason I have some issues with Shakespeare's, these Italian-sounding names in a Danish play. All right, so it just scrolls on, Act 1, Scene 1, and you click through it. So all I did was Google translated, Hamlet translated, and that was the first one that came up was Spark Notes, No Fear Shakespeare. So if you don't have to worry about buying it, you can read it online. That means you're stuck. You know, when you have hard copy, you can take it wherever you go. Might be easier to read it in a boring class that way. And you might be surprised that there might be some of those copies. Whoa, 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 what is that? Oh, okay. It looks like to have it, though, you have to sit through ads. That's what that just happened. An ad popped up for some kind of car in the middle of it. So check and see. Your teachers might have some translated copies or some side-by-side translations, but you can find it online. So that's what's going on. I'm still grading your projects. I'm maybe a third of the way through. I'll be sitting in my office for 3 hours today. Hopefully I can get through quite a few more. Some of you neglected to give me those page numbers, so I never got them on your works cited, so it's taken me a little while. Just to give you a heads up, see here's a sheet where I've had to write down the page numbers so that I can look for the poems and make sure that you got them out of the textbook and they look the same. And that's been one of those other little issues on this project. That's why I'm saying please have the directions with you, have the sample research paper, have that how to write a literary analysis. Don't do this and think, oh, I remember what she said. Because from what I'm seeing, you're not remembering. So please take the time. I will see y'all Wednesday. Plan on that quiz first thing. All righty? That's what I got for today. It's about time. Bye. Hey, congratulations. Everybody did well at your academic needs. I actually went on and checked the results to see how they're doing. Way to go, Hunter. Sarah, I know you placed 2. Let's see. Bye. Lorenzo's gone. I will see y'all Wednesday. Email. Wow, they had it out fast. Okay. Waving goodbye. Oh, before y'all came on, this is what I did for the recorded broadcast, so that I would know which one it was. I did this so we could have it. All right, you're gone. Bye-bye. Okay. All right, let's go to new. Okay, I've done that. Good work.